Hey kids, and welcome to the show. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about advice to your younger self. In my case, I'm not really giving advice to my younger self as much as I'm giving advice to my younger profession, and that is youth ministry. One of the most important things that I've ever done in my life was to work with youth, and I've worked with youth in several different facets. I worked with youth as a high school volunteer teaching RE for junior high kids and younger elementary kids. When I joined the military, I was, as my special or my extra duty, everybody had extra duty in the military, and I was able to work my extra duty out to be the Catholic youth minister on the post at Fort Riley. So I spent time working with military youth. And then when I left the military, I went to work in Missouri, got to work in the Diocese of St. Joseph. It was a lot of fun. Um, I'm sorry, not Diocese, Kansas City, St. Joseph. Um, I digress. And then I went to uh, live in Kansas again. So I worked in Missouri, went to live in Kansas, and worked at St. Francis Academy Boys Home. So that was for troubled adolescents, and that was an interesting experience. Then I went to work at Christ the King Parish in Oklahoma City, and throughout that time I was doing itinerant ministry, traveling around, doing a lot of different talks and presentations, and I used to have booths at the NCYC, booths at the NCCYM, and just super involved. I even made t-shirts to sell. Why do I say this? Well, the reason I started the itinerant ministry and the reason I started making t-shirts was because I needed more money. I didn't get paid enough as a youth minister, and I needed some other avenues. And one of the ways I was able to do that is I bought some DJ equipment in Kansas City and basically talked to all the other youth ministers and said, hey guys, I will cut what we're paying for DJs right now, because we used to have dances all the time. And I said, this is how much the equipment cost. Help me pay this back. I worked it off, had the equipment, started DJing, started making extra money. And it was just a fact of life in youth ministry that you're constantly fighting to make ends meet. Well, financially, that is kind of the nature of the beast right now. And if you want to learn how to negotiate your salary, go back to the other video I made, but that's not what this one's about. This one is about making your ministry thrive. And the way we make it thrive is with volunteers. Well, here's the thing. As a 20-year-old, 30-year-old, well, yeah, you don't tend to understand how to draw and keep volunteers. And I'm going to specifically speak to my first year in youth ministry, when I knew everything there was to know about youth ministry. Because if you've ever been in youth ministry, you know your first year is when you know everything, and everything is exactly the way as it should be. You have all the volunteers, and you have all the education, you have all the wisdom, you have all the experience you need in that first year. Okay, if you are a youth minister, you know I am so full of it right now. So let's say you got that job, you got that dream job, you're a youth minister, and you get your new office, you get to sit in there, you got your new computer, you got your phone, you got your phone number, you got your business cards, you're so excited, this is your first job. Now what? Well, hopefully you walk into a parish that already has volunteers, and they can show you around and you can get started. That's usually not the case. Typically, it seems like when a youth minister comes into a parish, more times than not, unfortunately, it's because the parish wants to take a completely different direction in youth ministry. That's a fancy way of saying they didn't like the last person, and they're not going to like you in a couple of years either. So how do you make your parish one that will thrive with you and then thrive without you? Because that's the ultimate goal. I used to say, and this was a wise thing I used to say when I was young and I didn't understand it, but now I'm older, I understand it. And the goal of youth ministry should always be to make yourself obsolete. You know, there's an old saying that it was one of the founding fathers, and I don't remember who it was, but you have to plant a tree for the shade that you will never have a chance to sit in. meaning it's going to be a long time before that tree grows and makes shade. So who is going to be there? Well, the parents are going to be there, obviously. But parents don't want to work with the youth ministry. That's a terrible thing. You can't get parents to volunteer. We need young adults to volunteer. Oh, I remember those days. I remember those days when I believed it, and I remember those days when people used to tell me that was how you get the best volunteers. Well, that's not it. And here's the way you're going to get your volunteers. You're going to get them. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some work, but after the first year or two, you're going to have volunteers out the wazoo, and more than you could ever want or need. And then you'll start getting some of the young adults too. So this one's free because I don't have any advertisers, but if you'd like to advertise with me, just shoot us an email. So first off, let's make your pastor help you. Don't be scared to say, hey, pastor, I need your help. And this is what I need. Firstly, everyone knows that when a pastor says something from the pulpit, everybody hears it. Pastor can say, everybody sit down, we're gonna have announcements. Somebody comes up there, they'll shoot out announcements talking about the end of the world happening and whatever. No one will hear a thing. But if the pastor says, hey, we need $10 for a new lamp in the sanctuary or whatever, and $10 is gonna show up. We know that the pastor has this authority. Whether they like it or not, when they speak, people listen. Also, people want to be around them. So here's the trouble with youth ministry. The pastors are never around. So why would people who are searching for faith want to be around youth ministry? Now, if you're a pastor that's at youth group, great. And there's some tips here that we're going to help. And you are already past the board. So you're in a good place. People want to be near the pastor. You look after mass, people are shaking hands. They're like, hey, pastor. They want to be there. They want to be with the priest. They want to be with the deacons. Kids, youth, teens, young adults, and old people need to have interaction with people that have different vocations. For me, I am a married person. If I am not sharing my vocation with other people in my community by being involved, I'm kind of slacking. And right now I am, because we're still trying to build, get into our community, because we've just switched our communities. But if we're not involved in the nurturing of our community, we're not doing what we need to do. And one of the ways to do that is to be with our pastors and deacons and other religious. So, what and why would the pastor be there? Because a lot of pastors are like, I don't want to be around teenagers. That sucks. I don't want to be around them. They're hard to understand. They smell funny. Some pastors are not comfortable around teenagers. But here's a way. And it involves my favorite drink, coffee. It doesn't have to be coffee. It could be lemonade, for whatever. Drink doesn't matter. But once a month, twice a month, 4 times a month if you can, invite the pastor for the first 15 minutes of youth ministry, of youth group, just to hang out. And make sure all the parents know that the pastor's going to be there. It's important for the kids to be with the pastor. It's also important for the parents to be with the pastor. So you make it a bigger event than it is, a bigger event than what youth ministry normally would be. So we have safe environment issues here, right? Well, we don't have to, because what we'll do is for that meeting, that 15 minutes with the pastor, it's not going to be a normal meeting. It's going to be in the big fellowship hall. It's going to be wherever, it's going to be in a big public space. And the teenagers and their parents are going to get to come and have a cup of coffee, some tea, whatever it is, and just visit with the pastor. All right, youth minister, this is your job. Your job is to make sure that the pastor is not talking to people about ministry. So how's that? His job is to talk about the weather, and you got to keep him on task. Make sure they're talking about the weather. Also, have some information out about volunteering with the youth ministry and the senior adult ministry, because those are two vulnerable, our vulnerable populations in our parish. Have some information out about volunteering with them all the time. And every person the pastor talks with, the pastor can say, hey, are you volunteering with the youth ministry here? Are you doing the youth ministry with us? Oh, it's so exciting. I didn't know you were doing youth. Oh, you're not? Well, here's a form. Guess what? Yeah, it's peer pressure. It's peer pressure. But when a pastor says, oh, wow, I'm so excited you're doing youth ministry, and they're like, oh, no, I'm just here to drop off my kids. And then the pastor says, oh, really? You'd be great at this. Why don't you take some information? Think to yourself what that does. That fulfills the pastor's call to say, come follow me. Here is a task I think you would be good for. You put that on the pastor. It's his job to shepherd the community, not yours. Your job is to create an atmosphere where he can shepherd. All right? We have lost the ministry fair. Some parishes still do the ministry fair. Where you walk into the gym and everybody's got their little science fair looking thing, and everybody talks about their ministry. I think we should bring those back. And I think there should be rules where it has to look like a 1980s science fair. You have to do the tri-board. You have to use like arts and crafts stuff. Anyway, I digress. When you do that, here's again, pastor. We need to use our pastors for ministry and not for business stuff. They shouldn't be dealing with contractors, and they shouldn't be dealing with silly stuff. They should be doing ministry. So make sure that when I say this, I keep saying pastor. This is a once a month kind of thing, or a once a year kind of thing. This isn't abuse your pastor, okay? This is not. And if your pastor wants to be helping you all the time, you need to be brave enough to look him in the eye and say, pastor, step back 1 week, because I need to talk to the kids when you're not here too, because there's some importance there. So make sure that you are communicating love, and you're saying, pastor, we need you, but we also need you to kind of step back. So make sure you control. That's your job as a youth minister, not to shepherd those kids, to give them opportunities to be shepherded, and to facilitate the pastor being able to do that. Don't overwork your pastor, and don't allow your pastor to overwhelm your ministry, okay? So your ministry, his flock. You got it? Your ministry, his flock. If you don't like your pastor, go someplace else. All right, number 2. Or 3 or 4, whatever. Next one, childcare. You have got to do childcare in youth ministry. All right, people are going to say, but childcare, there's liability. Yes, there is. But we're not talking a formal childcare. What we're talking is your meeting's 2 hours long. You have a few of your students, older, high school students or whatever, or responsible, and you say, I'm giving you 2 service hours to be on call. You're going to start teaching them about the value of their time. And when I say they're on call, they are the sitters for that week. You can have a schedule. You can write their names down on a schedule, and you call them the night before and say, okay, you're on sitter duty. And sitter duty is not a nursery. Sitter duty means if a parent wants to volunteer, they get to come in and leave their kid with these 2 teenagers who will be in sight, someplace off to the side, playing games. And that's their job. They won't be necessarily participating in youth ministry that week. They will be getting service hours. If they're on call and no kids show up, those kids still get those service hours. So that's something important that you need to teach your kids about service hours. The action and the openness to being available is the service, not the action of playing games with the kids. It's being open to Christ and to sharing Christ through acts of charity. So If nobody shows up, still give those kids, and they still get to participate in youth ministry. Really important. Why is childcare so important? Well, and it's going to kind of go into the training part of it. Parents with small children and parents with junior high age kids, high school kids, sometimes they need a break. And you might not think running around with a bunch of teenagers is a break, but when you have a parent that's running around chasing a toddler all day and they get a chance to talk to somebody they can actually have a conversation with, that's a big deal. So make it an environment where parents can say, I'm going to go volunteer with youth ministry tonight because I know that little Sarah is going to go play with somebody there that's set, and we're not talking changing diapers or anything. We're talking, Joe's over there watching the kid. Baby poops its pants. He goes and gets mom or dad. They come and take care of that, and then it's done. Okay? It's just a supervising in the corner, making sure they're safe. Okay? That's what most parents want. They want to know that their kids are safe. They want to know I can see them over there and I can have fun with my older kids. That's a big deal. All right? So here goes the other side of it. Youth ministry weekly sucks. It just does. It sucks for everybody. It sucks for the youth minister because you have to plan lesson plans. It sucks for the volunteers because they have to constantly be on it. It sucks for the facility managers. It just sucks. So how do you have less than a weekly meeting and be super effective at what you do? Well, here's my thought. And all that other stuff has to be in place to get here. And that's to only do 2 meetings a month, but have 4 meetings a month. 2 adult and 2 kids. At the 2 adult meetings, you are planning together as a team for the next meeting. So, planning meeting, youth group meeting, planning meeting, youth group meeting, planning meeting, youth group meeting. You get where I'm going here? You plan together for the lesson. Youth minister says, this is what we're planning. You get together as adults to fellowship, to have a cup of coffee, to brainstorm together, and to get ready for next week when you guys will have this amazing presentation that will share our faith in a positive way versus always struggling to try to figure something out. Do the planning meeting. Same time, every other week. This is going to take some coordination. This is going to take some good signage. This is going to take good website work because you need to communicate that youth is one week, parent volunteers is the next week, and have daycare at both. You can still have youth come and do that same kind of daycare off in the corner, just keeping an eye on them. Parents need to be able to get together as adults, share their faith, share their struggles, because when your parents and your adult leaders, they don't have to be parents, but when your adult leaders get together and we read scripture together and we break open prayer, we can share in a way that we can't share when we're with the teenagers. So if you do this, you will actually be serving 2 communities, your parents and your teenagers. And if you ever leave, man, it can sure work without you, can it? And isn't that what ministry is all about? Making yourself obsolete and making Christ in the community paramount. Until next time, work hard, be kind, and have fun.